So here's a good-natured gaming video introduction for ya. I've been reading Hellboy comics ever since I shoplifted a pair of really great graphic novels from my local Barnes & Noble bookstore when I was 17. I got caught for my idiotic teenage obsession with petty theft a few months later, attempting to take a White Stripes CD from the wrong Walmart on the wrong day. Had to take a few anti-theft classes and pay a fine. It was all quite dramatic, and let this be a lesson, kids. Crime doesn't pay. All this to say, I met Hellboy at a very rebellious time in my life. His comics, written and illustrated by creative superstar Mike Mignola, just felt right to me at the time. His right hand of doom, his blue-collar gumshoe demeanor, the wealth of folklore, fairy tale, and horror creatures he'd encounter, befriend, and yes, very often fight in glorious and impactful, dynamic fisticuffs. 2023's Hellboy Web of Wyrd aims for something not often legitimately achieved in video game history, a true-to-comic experience, both in the aesthetic sense and in narrative principle. The game eschews the look of any of the Hellboy movies and goes straight for the jugular, a mean, cel-shaded countenance pulled straight from creator Mignola's very artistic, somewhat twisted brain. Mignola was closely involved in the production of this game, having even rendered artwork and story ideas for it. The late great Lance Reddick of John Wick fame voices the titular hero / potential world destroyer, and boy does he elevate the game. To cut straight to the heart of the matter, Web of Wyrd is a fun experience overall, with plenty of moment-to-moment highlights and cool Hellboy ideas. However, there's not much under the hood as far as conceptual depth and play mechanics go. Could it have been better, bigger, an even greater monument to Big Red and his universe? Of course it could, but that doesn't mean players won't have a good time nonetheless. If you've never seen any of the movies or cracked a single Dark Horse comic book in your life, Hellboy is literally the spawn of the evil one who, through a quirk of interdimensional fate, ends up the adopted demonic ward of one Professor Broom, founder of the BPRD, otherwise known as the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. Hellboy's a good guy, see? Helping to protect the world from all manner of supernatural threats, and stylishly chomping on big cigars and tossing out one-liners while he does it. Web of Wyrd does its best to engage with these rather lofty good versus evil concepts, these distinct and disparate storytelling elements Mignola himself pulled together, but the scope of the game's limited. It's a roguelike, which is relatively newish genre characterized by short to mid-length procedurally generated dungeon runs that very often end in death. Each death offers players a chance to purchase upgrades that make their characters stronger, which means the standard roguelike is also a role-playing game. But procedural generation is almost never everything it's cracked up to be, now is it? Randomly generated levels sound like a very powerful thing to most gamers, but in Hellboy Web of Wyrd, there's just not that much aesthetic variety to pull from. Much of the time, there isn't a lot to distinguish the bluish, narrowly channeled underworld from the greenish, narrowly channeled underworld from the red, from the yellow. Some of this, of course, is due to the artwork of Mignola himself. While Hellboy and his colorful cast of supporting characters have always been a joy to encounter, the places he always seems to visit are kinda murky, nondescript, and vague, which works great in a comic book. Lots of atmosphere, cool vibe. It works less well when rendered in fully explorable 3 dimensions. It all just seems so empty sometimes. Luckily, the gameplay itself fares better. In fact, I had a lot of fun whomping the snot out of the variety of bad guys that I encountered from stage to stage. The mechanics are pretty straightforward. Mapped to an Xbox controller, and by the way, the game is now available on all current-gen platforms as well. Basic lock-on and blocking are mapped to the shoulder buttons. Melee is your X, your equipped sidearm is Y, you've got a power move and a dodge run function, and that's about it. In truth, the more you invest in your own particular playstyle, the more you'll realize there are any number of ways to wield the old right fist of doom. For instance, are you more of a bullets and shells person? Then invest all your hard-won in-game currency in upgrading the 3 different guns you'll unlock by the end of the game. You can also equip wards and blessings, and in every procedurally generated level lies stat boosts, health and defense upgrades, keys, artifacts, and a few other discovery, purchase, and upgrade opportunities. Again, the goal is not necessarily to survive every trip down into the web. A well-earned death will enable you to improve that one piece of gear or base stat to the point of complete domination. I tell ya, those rotten mooks won't know what hit them. So yes, Hellboy Web of Wyrd is fun. It's also cheap. In fact, about a year after its release here in the early autumn of 2024, I bought it on sale for all of $15 in the Microsoft Store. In other words, to a certain extent, you get what you pay for. Being more familiar with the movies rather than the comics won't help much either. Even the worst of the 3 existing films, and the 4th one coming straight to digital video October 8th, has much more scope and scale than this game. My favorite of the movies is Hellboy 2: The Golden Army. Writer-director Guillermo del Toro is kind of a hero of mine, having made, in my opinion, some of the most interesting dark fantasy films of the last 30 years. Pan's Labyrinth, The Shape of Water, Pacific Rim, and yes, even Blade 2. These are all pretty cool movies, more interesting to look at than just about any other dark fantasy film produced by Hollywood today. Hellboy 2 impressed the hell out of me when I saw it in theaters with my future wife back in 2007. Visually stunning, entertaining as all get out, and a ton of really great character moments too. The truth is, this very channeled and small Hellboy game will have an uphill battle with people most familiar with that version of the character. Completion of a roguelike is meant to be somewhat open-ended, but you probably won't play this one much after besting the 5, count them, only 5, stage bosses. None of them are so difficult, 1 or 2 deaths won't get you in proper fighting shape. Pick your way through another blobby, nondescript, magnolia-looking biome, wreak havoc, die by boss, repeat, succeed, game conquered. Enemy variety breaks down like this. There are pawn-like mooks, 1 or 2 hit minions that render limited health replenishment, and then there are the mid-level baddies. You've got slow-punching Hulksters, tricksy Gorgon types that spew inky smoke screens at you, faster evasive types that are sometimes a pain to track down and wallop. It's all just compelling enough, just fun enough. But none of it does anything too exceptional, unless, as mentioned, you love Dark Horse comics, in which case your enjoyment factor will rise significantly. Bosses do a bit better in the variety department. Their overall level of challenge and watching when to dodge and block their attacks are the most engaging elements of play. But if you're into more complex fighting game style finishing mechanics or massive multi-stage, multi-strategy takedowns, you're bound to be a little disappointed. But you have to take the good with the bad, and from the bottom of my comic nerd heart, I did enjoy my time with Hellboy Web of Wyrd. Got it on the cheap, and that probably informs my level of satisfaction to some degree, but the game hit the spot for me, especially since, as I mentioned, there's a new movie coming just a few days from the upload date of this video. I love Hellboy. Ever since my idiotic law-breaking teenage days, he's been a source of entertainment and comfort. Hellboy is a certified superhero. He's the doom of the world with the heart of gold, the big red ape who takes it on the chin for the little guy. I'd like to tell you his first major licensed video game is all charm, no ugly, but as they say down at the BPRD, it's close enough for government work. I tend not to score games that are more than a couple months old, but I'd probably give this guy a 7 out of 10. It may be closer to a 6 for those who aren't into the property or roguelikes in general, but if you aren't, what the heck are you doing watching this video? I think you ought to play this game if you get the chance. It's pretty straightforward, good for short play sessions, doesn't ask or demand too much, and does everything it can to feel like a genuine Hellboy experience. Truth be told, I wish there was more here. More lore, more play elements, and way more story. But as it stands, Hellboy Web of Wyrd is the video game with the stone-fisted punch that almost always lands square on the jaw. Alright you mooks, listen up. Like and subscribe if you're so inclined, hit the notification bell to stay updated on all my new content. I am gonna do this voice the whole time, so don't worry. I make gaming, music, and mental health videos, uploading about 2 or 3 of these bad boys per week. We're all done here. Now bring me a tall stack of pancakes the next time you stop by, would ya? I'm starving!
I know you know me, running around
control, yeah, control me. In our past lives we were born to